It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Folks, it's Christmas Eve. I should have had the day off, but Xerox decided they want to buy Lexmark. I want to share some thoughts on this. This isn't going to be too in-depth of an episode. There'll be more episodes around this. This is a big story, but this story has big implications. Big implications with OEMs, with dealers. I mean, it's just got big implications. But I do want to say this from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, Xerox Board of Directors and the CEO of Xerox, for taking this step, this bold action. Back in 2016, Lexmark, a once great American company, was sold to Apex, which is now called Ninestar. And when that happened, Lexmark became, well, a company controlled by the Communist Chinese Party. We all know it. It moved to China. It became a PRC subsidiary. And we all know that when the PRC has the controlling equity in the company, that PRC controls the company. I'm not even going to argue about that anymore. Xerox, thank you. Let's make this work. I listened to the call that Xerox had with the analysts. The analysts are getting better at their questions. They just really stink at asking follow-up questions. They got to get better with the follow-up questions. They asked the question of Xerox about the OEM business that Lexmark does. Do you think you're going to keep that OEM business? I'm going to share some thoughts on that today. But they didn't ask the question about Ninestar. They didn't ask Xerox, hey, did you get that business so inexpensive because Lexmark's owners, Ninestar, got banned by the Department of Homeland Security over the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act? It never came up in the conversation, and it is an important part of the conversation, and I'm surprised those analysts didn't ask that question. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to share some thoughts with you. I just got to ask Ninestar and Xerox this question. Did Ninestar's only critic, the end of the day with Ray, force Ninestar to sell Lexmark for less than half of what it paid in 2016? What was the reason? I mean, it was a big price difference from what you paid for that thing in 2016, right? And now I want to say something to all of my industry media friends. What if you were holding Lexmark accountable, especially since July of 2023? When the Department of Homeland Security banned Lexmark's owners over the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act. Our industry just wants to forget about it. It's crazy. We don't want to forget about it. This is an important part of the story. And ladies and gentlemen, I've done so many episodes I got tired of copying and pasting them to show you all. I've written many articles about this. What if our industry's media and analysts actually held Lexmark accountable? I think Xerox could have got that thing for nothing. And now I do want to bring up a gentleman, Jimmy from Toner News. Jimmy from Toner News has been all over this story like me, and I appreciate that, Jimmy. Jimmy has a blog, and his blog is in the toner remanufacturing space. He's got a very successful blog in that space, and he's been all over this. And I thank you, Jimmy, for doing that. Because anytime an American company can take control of a PRC, that's a good thing. And we need to do this more. I think my next campaign is going to be around Lenovo. Let's see if we can't get Lenovo to get back over here on our shores for a really good price. But folks, you saw the press release out there, and I just want to bring this up because I think it's a little bit interesting. So the CEO of Xerox says our acquisition of Lexmark will bring together two industry-leading companies. The rest of the story, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure you all read the press release. Our industry's media analysts probably copied and pasted that on their blog by now. But you know what I found interesting about this press release was what I saw being posted by the president of Lexmark. President Lexmark posts this thing on LinkedIn. It says up top of it, two great American companies coming together. I'm sure the leadership at Lexmark, until the day that Xerox is at the closing table with Lexmark's owners, Ninestar. I mean, the Lexmark leaders probably won't even be at the closing. There's no reason to be there. They're like a branch manager, okay? But that's the day they're going to realize they really had no power. That's the day they're going to realize they're really governed by Ninestar, a PRC that's controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. That's the day they're going to realize it. But I'll tell you what, when Xerox finally closes the deal and buys Lexmark from Ninestar, when those Lexmark leader or employees or whoever's left are Xerox employees and they tell people they're governed by an American board, they'll be telling the truth. Part of that conversation they talked about, Ninestar paid $3.6 billion 9 years ago. The revenues at Lexmark were $3.5 billion. Xerox is going to pay $1.5 billion. The revenues last trailing 12 months for Lexmark are $2.2 billion. EBITDA, $318 million. Folks, the financials around this deal are strong for Xerox. This is a really good deal for Xerox. That $318 million in EBITDA attached to the EBITDA that Xerox produces, the Xerox has always been pretty good with their profitability. That $2.2 billion added in revenue. Xerox bought a company called IT Savvy not too long ago, a couple of months ago. You start adding that revenue to the mix. It's not going to be long before Xerox is getting really close to that $9.5 billion, soon $10 billion in top line revenue. Maintain their profit. That's pretty nice. They got a lot of work to do to make sure that happens. They got a lot of disciplines to put in place to make sure that happens. But at the end of the day, financially, this is a pretty good deal. In another episode, I'll go through these numbers a little bit deeper, but if you take that $2.28 billion, last 12 months number, $418 million of it is OEM business, and $1.8 billion is Lexmark branded business. So there is business out there. Lexmark, manufactures equipment. We all know it, right? In that call, Xerox said 7 out of the 10 major OEMs are buying equipment from Lexmark and rebranding it. One of the analysts asked, will you be able to keep that business? I mean, what's Xerox going to say on that question? Well, of course, we'll probably grow it. I think you'll have some pressure in that business space. I think this deal is going to cause pressure throughout the whole industry because now we're starting to see some major consolidation happen. And when you see major consolidation, people start thinking a little bit differently, I hope. But ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you all a question. I've asked it many a times. What is Xerox's greatest asset to the printing industry? I'll tell you what it is. They're the largest damn dealer in the world. That's a fact. And guess what? Well, that reality just got multiplied. They're the largest dealer in the world. They just bought Lexmark. Now they got all that Lexmark equipment spread across the world. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a really big footprint into the end user's office. It's huge. And when you think about that, well, here's what I think. There isn't an OEM in the world that would want to be part of this. One of the reasons I was never excited about Xerox buying Lexmark is I couldn't get my head around the manufacturing component of it. But the more I think about this, I don't think manufacturing has anything to do with Xerox aspirations. Of course, they're not going to be able to share that kind of thought. I mean, I don't even know if they have that kind of thought, but that's my thinking. Xerox doesn't want to be a manufacturer. Xerox wants to have power over the manufacturers. And the way you have power over manufacturers is you build the biggest footprint directly into the end user on equipment that has to be supplied and serviced. And if you can do that, guess what? You become attractive to a whole lot of folks, frenemies or not. Let's think about this, ladies and gentlemen. In that conference call, they discussed that 19% of Lexmark's revenues are OEM branding. I just showed you that slide. When I think about Kyocera makes a great A4 MFP. If you think about it, Kyocera and Lexmark probably make the best A4 MFPs for the office. That's probably undeniable. But I don't know if Kyocera, OEM rebranding anybody's stuff. I don't think they make machines for anybody, do you? Unless I'm missing something. Well, when Kyocera is looking at Xerox and Lexmark coming together, maybe they're thinking, hey, we got to call up Xerox. Hey, Xerox, let's do what Ricoh and Toshiba Tech did. Let's form a manufacturing joint venture, and we'll make all the machines. Why not? Ladies and gentlemen, what Xerox bought was a Lexmark base. They don't need to make those machines. Sooner or later, those machines are going to get replaced. And if those machines say Xerox on it, that's fantastic for Xerox. I think the Lexmark name could completely just go away. Go away. Right? Why do they need the Lexmark name? They don't. And so if they're just going to be selling machines based on the Xerox philosophies, based on the Xerox services, based on the Xerox broader deliverable, the customers will buy from them. Does Xerox really need to make the machines? I just don't think so, and I don't know how in the world Xerox is going to make machines, be a manufacturer, when Ninestar's basically the manufacturers. Ninestar going to give them all the manufacturing facilities? I just don't know how that all works. I can't wait to see how that plays out. But I think there's a better play here. Fujifilm, Xerox's frenemy. They're looking at this thinking, okay, we're kind of frenemies with Xerox, but at the end of the day, now they're even a bigger footprint. Maybe we should, go see Xerox and take them out to dinner and get a little closer to them. Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, when you have major disruptions in the marketplace, those disruptions make for strange bedfellows, I assure you. They sure do. Folks are going to start thinking about this a whole lot differently. It just took something to happen. And now that it's happened, you're going to see these other folks play. And the way this looks today, it's not the way it's going to end up by the time 2025 ends. Xerox, coming together with Lexmark, big changes for the industry. I'll be all over this story. I'm excited about it. And again, I want to thank those folks at Xerox, their board, their leadership for doing this. We needed to get Lexmark back to America. And Xerox, I applaud you for doing it. And everybody that watches me knows this. Status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck there. Have a fantastic Christmas. And I'll see you all in a couple of days.